Onward, always onward. Elias stood by the riverbank at dawn, inhaling the cool breath of morning. His workshop lay behind him, a modest wooden structure filled with gears, pulleys, and half-finished inventions. He had once devoted himself to mastering every principle of mechanics and engineering, seeking truth in precise measurements and tireless experimentation. Over years, that rigorous inquiry had sharpened his mind. Now he felt called to apply those discoveries not merely for profit, but for the good of his town. As the first fishermen pushed their boats into the water, Elias approached Mara, the local healer, who knelt on a low stone pier sorting herbs. He spoke quietly, voice steady with sincerity. Mara, the aqueduct we designed together last season began to leak near the West Mill. I've taken readings of the support beams and found the problem. The load is uneven. I'd like your help in reinforcing the channel and to show the millers how to monitor the flow daily. Mara looked up, eyes tired yet hopeful. You've done more than repair pipes, she answered. You've restored my faith. When the town's wells ran dry, you worked through nights until every family had water again. You've reminded us we can overcome hardship with clear purpose. Elias nodded. In his youth, he'd built devices for profit and prestige, but over time he came to see the emptiness of mere accolade. His sincere correction of each flawed prototype, an ethic of self-honesty, had taught him that integrity was more valuable than acclaim. More than once, he had offered his inventions freely to those who needed them, whether it was a grain mill for the farmers or a pulley system to help the wounded lift themselves from wreckage after storms. Later that morning, he convened a small gathering in the village square. Mara and the mill captain, Tomas, stood beside him as he presented blueprints on weathered parchment. Villagers leaned forward, curiosity alight in their eyes. Elias spoke in calm, measured tones. If each of us contributes what we can, your labor, your tools, your insights, this aqueduct will stand for generations. In return, everyone will have reliable water and mills that grind grain without delays. Hands rose. Tomas volunteered his apprentices. An elderly mason offered to reshape the stone supports. A young farmer pledged timber from his grove. Step by step, they drew plans in the dust, adjusting angles and sharing ideas. Their collaboration felt like a living tapestry. Threads of knowledge, compassion, and shared responsibility weaving together. By noon, the group dispersed to prepare. Elias knelt to examine a draft of a balancing valve, gently wiping away smudges so the etchings came clear. Purity of spirit, he believed, came not through grand proclamations, but through the simple act of refining one's work and one's intentions. Every moment spent filtering away selfish impulses was an investment in collective well-being. As the sun climbed overhead, Elias paused and looked beyond the square. He saw children playing, merchants bartering, travelers arriving from distant roads. In each face, he recognized the same spark, the capacity for kindness, ingenuity, and courage. He felt a deep resolve growing within him, to devote his skills, day after day, to easing burdens and lighting paths for others. And so, with sincerity in his heart and purpose in his hands, he set to work, knowing that through steady effort, shared wisdom, and unwavering compassion, even the greatest challenges could be overcome. Elias worked through the afternoon in the company of neighbors and friends. As beams were hoisted and stones carefully set, he moved among them, offering guidance, lending a hand, and listening to each suggestion. When Tomas pointed out that the new support might buckle under heavy flow, Elias paused to recalculate the brace angle, sketching adjustments in the dust. He encouraged the mason's apprentice to test-fit a carved keystone before it was set in the arch. Every contribution was both a problem to solve and a lesson in collective ingenuity. At one point, Mara approached him with a worn leather satchel. "I brought refreshments and a balm for your hands," she said with a gentle smile. Elias accepted both gratefully. As he rested, she handed him an herbal tea infused with mint and lavender. He closed his eyes on the courtyard's warm light and tasted the brew's soothing warmth. "You have a gift for invention," she said softly, "but your greatest strength is your faith in others, trusting their talents and nurturing their confidence." Her words resonated. He remembered nights alone in his workshop when frustration threatened to overwhelm him. He had learned that success was not an individual feat, but a tapestry woven from many threads. Genuine humility, he realized, was not shrinking from one's abilities, but being willing to share them, both the triumphs and the uncertainties, with those around him. Revived by Mara's care, Elias returned to the aqueduct. The final keystone clicked into place just as the sun dipped low. Together, they tested the channel. Water trickled at first, then gushed steadily through the reinforced conduit, cascading into the reservoir beyond. Cheers rose from the villagers. Tomas slapped Elias on the back, and the mason's apprentice grinned up at him, eyes shining. That evening, under lantern light, the community gathered for a modest feast beside the repaired aqueduct. Tables were set with fresh bread, roasted vegetables, and bowls of sweet honey. Survivors of past droughts raised cups in a toast to shared perseverance. Elias sat at the head of the table, but he felt no lordly pride, only gratitude for the hands that had labored alongside his own. As twilight deepened, he rose and spoke quietly so all could hear. "This aqueduct is more than stone and mortar. It stands because each of us gave what we could. Skill, sweat, insight, and care. May we remember that when one of us stumbles, others will be here to support the load. Let us carry that spirit forward in all we build and all we share." A hush fell, broken only by the rustle of summer breeze through reeds. Then a cheer went up. Less for Elias, more for the bond they had forged. In that moment, he understood the true measure of his life's work, not the perfection of his designs, but the character they revealed, in himself and in everyone who joined him. And with that understanding, he felt his spirit purified, ready for whatever challenge tomorrow would bring. That night, long after the lanterns were extinguished and the last of the laughter drifted into sleep, Elias lingered beside the silent flow of water. He knelt on the cool stones, tracing the channel's smooth curve with his fingertips. Each ripple bore witness to the hours of shared labor, to the conversations in the dust, and to the quiet trust that had grown among neighbor and friend. As dawn's first light colored the sky, he rose and made his way through the village. Doors stood open, and on every doorstep someone was already stirring. Tending chickens, tending gardens, tending to the small yet vital routines of daily life. He paused at the furrows of a young farmer's field where the newly irrigated soil glistened. The farmer met his gaze and tipped his hat, a slow smile easing into his eyes. No words were needed. The strength of their bond spoke in that simple greeting. Elias continued onward to the workshop that had once been his solitary refuge. Inside, he found tools neatly arranged, calipers, hammers, sketches pinned in careful order. Today, he would return to his bench. But not alone. The mason's apprentice awaited him, eager to learn about load distribution. Mara would drop by later to discuss a simple water purifier she hoped to craft for the village infirmary. Even Tomas had promised to show the mill's new apprentices how to maintain moving parts and prevent wear. He set down his satchel and unrolled a fresh sheet of parchment. With steady strokes, he began to draft a design for a hand press. Something small but sturdy, capable of pressing oil or juice for those who could not afford a larger mill. He knew the project would take weeks, perhaps months, but he was unhurried. Every line drawn was an invitation, an unspoken call for collaboration. Outside, the aqueduct carried water onward in gentle continuity, a reminder that progress, like flowing water, is sustained by many small streams. Elias paused to watch a child by the reservoir, cupping water in both hands and drinking with unguarded delight. In that moment, he felt the convergence of his life's work, the union of precise mechanics and human compassion, of rigorous inquiry and heartfelt generosity. He returned to his sketch, dipped his quill in ink, and drew the first curve of the press's lever. Tomorrow, the apprentice would come, and together they would refine its form. Each day would bring another step, questions asked, mistakes corrected, discoveries made. And each day, the community would grow stronger. Not because of a single genius, but because of many hearts and minds joined in purpose. In the quiet of his workshop, Elias allowed himself a gentle smile. There would be challenges ahead, breakdowns to repair, droughts to endure. But he knew the wellspring of their strength, an unwavering commitment to truth, a continual cleansing of self-interest, and an open hand extended in service. As sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating dust motes that danced like lively spirits, Elias lifted his head and whispered to himself, "Onward, always onward." And with that, he set his mind to work, confident that, together, they would meet whatever dawns lay ahead.